So, we know that open source is free and proprietary has licensing costs. However, is open source going to be free forever? Can we put people's minds at ease about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's of course always a chance that some corporation would buy a project and um, turn it from open source to closed sourced, or modify the user agreement in some way or the legal rights of usage. But um, if that's why you got to look at the community and the strength of community. For example, like WordPress is not going away, Drupal's not going away. Um, but in the course of decades or many years, it is possible that certain platforms will fade, but that's just like anything. You get entire corporations, their products fade and come out of favor because they have a lot of technical debt or whatever. Just people jump on to the next trend. So, you know, but I would say it's more reliable that an open source project would stay free and maintained if it has a good community support, from now into the future.
And then I think you mentioned earlier are plugins that have licensing fees though, right? Like third-party plugins that you may have to pay for.
I see. Yeah, that's, especially with WordPress as an example, they do have some plugins that you pay for, but with that, you're fixing one of the difficult things sometimes about open source. You're paying a programmer essentially to own and maintain this project, giving them a financial incentive. Whereas, sometimes in other projects, you just will get a developer that has a life, or that can just update or whatever it is, if it's a more obscure module that's not as used by the entire community. So it's just fixing a little bit of an inefficiency in the open source ecosystem. And I think it totally makes sense to pay $30 or $40, for a plugin. Or sometimes even $100 if it's very complex and comprehensive, and that's compared to thousands and thousands of dollars per year, month, whatever, on these proprietary systems. So I really don't think it's much of a big deal for the situations we're talking about here. And then generally there's a free equivalent if you don't want to pay.